Hey there, all you wonderful friends. How's it going? Happy Saturday. Welcome to my top 10 favorite pop culture things. This is the second video where, as a result of unlocking 10 subscribers on this channel, I wanted to give you 3 cool top 10 videos. So this is the second one. And we're going to jump into familiar territory, and then as we go along, we'll descend into more obscure things. So let's kick it off with with number 1, even though none of these are in a particular order. And remember, this is a podcast, right? So, put it on in the background, in the back burner, and just listen to it. You don't necessarily have to be glued in front of your screen for this one. And also just thank you. Thank you for viewing, for continuing to come back. If you're a first-time listener, thank you for being here. And please feel free to subscribe, to like, to comment, to just hang out. It'll be cool to have you as part of the journey. So, number 1 top pop culture thing is the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with this universe. It shouldn't have grown. There should have been no animosity. There shouldn't have been any hate whatsoever. But unfortunately, like the young baby that is birthed, and you see it grow, and then it becomes a tormented teenager that gives you problems. That's what I've experienced with the MCU. The first 3 phases were sheer cinematic brilliance. How they managed to cobble together a deal with so many different A-lister actors to appear in so many different films with incredible plot threads, with very smart, intelligent writing, small little red herrings, small little clues that geared up towards a Avengers movie, a second and a third, with so many different actors coming all together and really just climaxing in the final Avengers films, Infinity War and Endgame. It was just sheer brilliance how they managed to pull that off. And then, my friends, we had Phase 4, and now we are in Phase 5. That was the introduction of a grander scale, a grander scope, apparently, where now we have to not only glue into the plot threads of the movies, but we have to glue into the plot threads of several different TV shows. I don't really want this to be a rant of MCU Phase 4 and Phase 5, but it looks as though we're going to be going there, and I'll do my best to keep it brief. But what is going on with this franchise, friends? I don't know, but where's the glue? Where's the fun? Where are all the plot threads? Other than the big baddie, who they are busy setting up. I can't even remember his name. That's just how much it's not sticking in my brain right now. Even though I should be remembering him, I just missed it timely. That's what's coming into my head right now. And I know it's supposed to be. There it is. It's back in my brain. Kang the Conqueror. I don't know who Kang is. I've never cared. I mean, I didn't really know who Thanos was either, but I cared about Thanos when like I did my Wikipedia, like a nerd, little reviewing and researching as to who this guy was and why he was so important to the collective story. Kang the Conqueror just seems like a one size fits all kind of dude, because he's an infinite multiple iterations. There could be a million different Kangs in the world. So I'm not very excited about it. Like, why should I care about Kang? Because he's an infinite baddie. Anyway, so that's the plot threads that's moving this universe together. And my friends, even though I have still kept up with the series, it has saddened me so much. I will continue to keep up with the series. However, I've already reached the point where I no longer am watching the movies as they hit the cinema. As they hit the cinema, I'm even checking out the Wikipedia article just so I know the plotline. I'll wait for them all to come on Disney Plus streaming. Maybe I'll get excited again when the first Avengers movie decides to hit the cinemas. But as we are now, friends, if I look towards what's coming up on the MCU side of things for the rest of this year, we've got the Marvels, which I'm not excited about. And I think that's it. If we look on the Disney Plus shows side of things, we've got Secret Wars, and seeing as how they've butchered all the other original OG Avengers protagonists, I don't know what they're going to do with Nick Fury, and it has me very concerned. I think we have other shows coming up. Loki season 2. I don't know when that's going to come. I'm genuinely excited for that one, because that one seems to actually have the story driving forward. So I'm more excited for Loki season 2 than anything else. I'm excited about the animated What If shows. So far, of all the MCU Phase 4, Phase 5, What If had my attention the most, because the animation was cool. It was clever as well. If you haven't seen it, I'd definitely recommend it, because it's not just one-off episodes. It's something that builds, and it actually is a cohesive narrative, and it builds into an incredible payoff towards the end of the show. I think it's the hidden gem of the whole MCU series so far. So definitely worthwhile checking out. Please do so. As for everything else, friends, I mean, look, they've already butchered. They butchered. What's his name? The Daredevil. They butchered him. I don't know. I'm not excited about him anymore. He was made so weak in the She-Hulk TV series. And Agatha, I don't care about. Echo, I don't care about. Oh, I just want to see Daredevil fighting Kingpin. That's all I want to see. What else do we have coming up? I'm not excited for the... I mean, look, who knows what's going to happen, because everything's in a writer's strike at the moment in Hollywood. So I guess we'll see. It's just one big mess at the moment. And I remember the last time that there was a massive writer's strike, that was in, I think, around 2012, when they were showing the TV show Heroes. And Heroes was amazing. And then there was the writer's strike, and then everything just fell to pieces. So let's see what happens. Friends, I think we've talked about the MCU far too much. So the next one I think we'll jump into then is still related to Marvel, but not cinematically. And that is good old Mr. Spider-Man. Your friendly hood neighborhood Spider-Man. Your friendly hood neighborhood Spider-Man. So yeah, Spider-Man. I think he deserves a special category all on his own, because Spider-Man introduced me just to like the fun of like a superhero. And I was introduced to Spider-Man. I think my first interaction it was a combination of the 90s or early 2000s television show, but I think it was the late 90s animated television show. And I do remember seeing, like, somehow on a local South African broadcast channel, they played the Japanese Spider-Man show. If you've never watched the show, it's as ridiculous as it sounds. But I think just because in the 90s there was another show that was very similar to the Spider-Man show. I'm not going to mention what that show is, because it also features on this podcast somewhere down the list. But I think that's why. I mean, they could have picked any show to show on these television things. So yeah, friends, Spider-Man. There's just something cool about the character, you know. There's just something cool about his humility and his snarkiness when he's all suited up. I think particularly it's that I love the Rogues Gallery. Spider-Man has just got so many cool villains, you know. Like, yes, there's so much to say about the hero himself, but the hero is nothing if he doesn't have cool villains. And Spider-Man just has got so many outstanding ones, all with different, also animal-like qualities and themes. And that's just why that character stuck with me. And subsequently, when Marvel released their comic book app, it has been just so much fun to be able to actually experience Spider-Man in his authentic origin format, where I can experience all of these villains on their very first issues, coming into Spidey's world, and some of them joining up together, not in a Sinister Six kind of way just yet. And it's just been so much fun just seeing that journey and just knowing that I have accessibility to read Spidey's journey. Spidey now has taken a complete turn. I don't think they are following Peter Parker's journey anymore. Now everybody is kind of being forced down the road of Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy as the Spider-Gwen and all these other multiverse heroes. I'm very excited for the new animated Spidey Miles movie. But yeah, Peter Parker, that iteration with what's her name? Tiger, you know the one. Hey Tiger, MJ, her. With redhead MJ and just good 90s animation with that hardcore awesome guitar solo on the TV show. With the very first Sam Raimi movie as well, and the trailer and the very first trailer for that, which was banned through and because of the 9/11 terrorist attack. It was just Spidey was the wave. It rode the wave of Marvel, and so that's why he stuck with me. Okay, friends, we've talked enough about Marvel. Let's get into number 3, Power Rangers. Power Rangers. Yes, that is right. I am an adult, 31-year-old man, and I still love Power Rangers. I think far more than any person should. I won't succumb as so far, or I won't sink to the levels of buying any toys or buying any like gear or anything like that. Even though as a kid, I do fondly remember my Power Ranger little figures that I had. I won't sink to those levels now. However, that said, I still very much thoroughly love Power Rangers. There's just something so cool about live action, well choreographed fight scenes with pyrotechnics still in effect, with the wireframe, action sequences. There's just something cool about that. We don't even get live action, well choreographed fight scenes in movies anymore. So yeah, Power Rangers, friends. It's fun, it's just fun, and I enjoy watching the shows while I'm busy gymming. There's just like all the outlandish like weapons and the suits, and then like the big robot suits with people inside the big robot suits, and explosions, and fake skyscrapers collapsing, and it takes me back to such a good time. And I think we were lucky as kids to be able to experience the 90s iteration of Power Rangers, because the producers were smart enough to figure out how to bring in a sense of continuity. I was only far later in my life when I discovered that actually Power Rangers is just an American overdubbed Japanese show. And the Japanese show has got completely different characters, completely different plot lines, it's completely different everything. So it's fascinating how they're able to cut up a Japanese show and stick in a whole bunch of plot extras, but make it Americanized. But yeah, back to the original OG Power Rangers. I think it was just brilliant how the producers managed to figure out how we can bring in that sense of continuity by introducing new shows that in Japan had no relation to each other whatsoever, but in America they could stitch them all together and figure out how to make the bad guys evolve into the next iteration of the bad guy, and this continuing plot thread with Zordon, the dude in the glass cylinder thing, and how they managed to navigate the difficulties of having their original cast members leaving due to contractual disagreements. It was just cool to see the Power Rangers evolve through time, I think I was also lucky enough to be able to see the original 2 Power Rangers movies in cinemas. And it was just, again, like so clever with the Power Rangers Turbo movie, how they used that movie as the segue into the new TV show. So it's like you had to be glued to the television. And I think that's a continuing theme with 2 of the other shows that I'll mention a little bit later on in this podcast. So yeah, friends, I'm enraptured still to this day with Power Rangers, and I think it's very. I can confidently say that it's very doable for me to actually finish every single episode very, very soon, with the consistency of me doing gym and with the consistency of the seasons actually becoming a lot less as the years went on. Because you have to remember, in 90s and early 2000s television, each season of a show was like 40 or 50 episodes long. But now that we are into the era of streaming and Netflix and etc., budgets have become a lot tighter and attention spans have become a lot less. So shows now are like a full season will actually be split into two, and it'll be called 2 seasons, and each season will be 20 episodes long, or they will literally just be one season with like 20, 30 something episodes. So yeah, friends, it's kind of like it's a journey that I'm undergoing right now, and I must say I'm very, very excited to see to finally get to the end. And I've noticed that in the most recent season, even though it hasn't aired yet, for the first time in I think like over a decade, the producers of the show are experimenting with the exact same thing that they did in the 90s with Power Rangers, moving on into different suits, different storylines, and bringing back that sense of continuity. So I'm very excited about that. I can't wait to get to the end of that journey. It's been some up and downs with the shows. You can immediately see, I can immediately tell which seasons I'm gonna love by the very first fight scenes. If they are well choreographed with actual actors, or if they decide to phone it in and bring in a whole bunch of digital special effects, and then I know what kind of season I'm in for. So it's always excited. I always get excited by marathoning myself through a season to get through to the next one to see what is in store. So I think we've talked a little bit too much about Power Rangers. My friends, let's move on to the next one. We're on number 4, Assassin's Creed, the video game franchise that, oh man, here's another love-hate relationship with Assassin's Creed. For now, we are very much in the hate spectrum of Assassin's Creed. It's such a pity. It started off so well, my friends. It started off brilliantly. Ubisoft in its absolute prime, kicking all other third-party gaming companies to the curb. Like riding the wave of the Prince of Persia franchise straight into introducing Assassin's Creed. And the very first game, even though some people don't like it for some reason, I am in love with that game. The story was so well written. For it to be able to juggle conspiracy and modern day technology and the mystery of who are the Templars and who are the Assassins, and all this cool lore and tech that goes behind getting somebody to relive their memory in the past through the Animus platform, and all the meta mystery of who were these precursor people with their artifacts that shaped history as humans understood it, but actually just used very, very advanced technology to inspire very primitive humanity and their thought process. All these cool things combined to make Assassin's Creed so exceptionally well done. Yes, the gameplay was jank for the time, but the concept behind it and the idea that Ubisoft were going into this one project with the idea of this becoming a trilogy, and that's something that was happening in the gaming landscape at the time as well. I remember Gears of War 1, like when Microsoft first showcased it, it's like this is the first game in a trilogy, and that's just what was happening in gaming at the time. People were invested in stories and invested in the gamers becoming fans of this particular IP. So Assassin's Creed 1, another thing with it is that none of the trailers showed anything to do with the modern day story. None of it. And yes, You are either in the camp of I love the modern day or I hate the modern day. I'm in the camp of I love the modern day story. It was the one thing that kept me glued to the series. And let's jump into Assassin's Creed, the Assassin's Creed Ezio trilogy, because Assassin's Creed 1 was brilliant. It had its flaws, but it had the awesome cliffhanger ending, and I was so stoked for the second one to come out. The second one came out, and it blew me away with just how they listened to fan feedback and implemented and tweaked every single thing that made the first game horrible. And then I was so excited for Assassin's Creed 3. I was like, yes, cool. I'll wait a few years. I'm ready. I'm so ready. You also left me in such a good cliffhanger, and I'm ready. And then I think the descent of Assassin's Creed began when instead of waiting a few years and bringing out a trilogy, they realized just how popular this fan base actually is and how much money they can make from the platform. And all of a sudden a whole bunch of side games came out. Assassin's Creed became a yearly iteration, and you could definitely feel the creative magic was slowly diluted with each year. And it culminated in Assassin's Creed 3 coming out, which really just wasn't all that great, unfortunately. Yeah. Oh man, I don't even want to go there. I don't want to go there. It just hurt me too much. They brought it back with Assassin's Creed 4. They damaged the reputation again with Assassin's Creed Unity. No one played Assassin's Creed Rogue, which came out at the exact same time as Unity, but it was brilliant. It was innovative. It was daring for a company to bring out 2 Assassin's Creed games on the exact same day. It was so awesome, and it damaged my bank account so much because I had to buy 2 games at the exact same time. But Assassin's Creed meant so much to me, friends. I bought consoles because of Assassin's Creed. I bought my PSPs, both of them, because of Assassin's Creed. And now I don't even own a console anymore, and I cannot. And if I want to really play a game, it would have to be a very good Assassin's Creed. But unfortunately, they don't make those anymore, and I can't justify buying a console for a bad Assassin's Creed game. It's a pity, friends, because after Unity and Rogue, we then had Syndicate, which was appalling. By then, I wasn't psyched to buy these games anymore day one. I waited for them to become cheaper. Syndicate was appalling. After that, we had Origins, which I bought, but I never played, because it wasn't even Assassin's Creed anymore, even though apparently it's brilliant. I didn't play it. I couldn't bring myself to play an RPG. That's not the game that I signed up for. I bought Odyssey, and like everybody on the internet who's ever written a Assassin's Creed Odyssey video or podcast or talk, it all ends with the same sentence: Assassin's Creed Odyssey broke me. Check out SkillUp's video, or Lasers'. His name, the channel is Lasers, but check out those videos. They are so brilliant and incredibly well written, way better than I could ever write, because I can't write, I just speak. In fact, no, I lie. I probably would be a lot more eloquent if I actually did write a script, but for now I just use my limited vocabulary to talk. So check those out. They just sum up everything to do with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I tried so hard to play that game, and you know what? It did break me, because I put in 100 hours into that game. It was so big, and I leveled up my character. I hated everything about it, but I just kept playing, and friends, I opened up the map. I tried to do every single side quest before completing the main game. My character was very well leveled. I had all the very good stats and gear, and then there was an update to the game, and my save file got corrupted. I couldn't play the game anymore because it looked all blocky. I couldn't recover my save file. I couldn't restart the game. Something happened to the game or to my system as a result of that patch. Yeah. I could swear right now, but I'm not going to. Assassin's Creed Odyssey broke me. Enough said. After that came Valhalla. I haven't even watched a long play for that. Apparently, it's trying to bring things back with reintroducing Desmond Miles, the character who I fell in love with from the original series, in some format. I'm not really sure how, I just know it's a thing. Apparently, they're trying to bring it back with some dude who is now the protagonist for Assassin's Creed Mirage. Just now, a few days ago, they showed a cinematic footage trailer for the game, and it looks like it's original Assassin's Creed again. That's the motif that they are apparently punting. But we have all been burnt by Ubisoft before, friends. How many times have we been burnt by Ubisoft trailers? So I am treading very cautiously with Assassin's Creed Mirage. I have zero hype, because if it is the Assassin's Creed that I know and I love, and if they really are going back to that roots, that would mean that I would have to now start marathoning long plays of Assassin's Creed Origins, and I shudder to say this, of Odyssey, of Valhalla, of all of their DLC and side content, so that I can again be up to date with the story, so I can continue with Mirage and hopefully the gameplay style that I love. And let's not even go into all these other Assassin's Creed projects that Ubisoft are busy working on. It's such a pity to see the fall of Ubisoft, friends. It really is. I mean, they pioneered so much with the gaming industry, with the original Assassin's Creed. Like, they revolutionized the third person, like, action combat open world series with, like, go up, find a tower, reveal the map, do the side content, etc. And now there's no innovation anymore. It's just Ubisoft are hemorrhaging money, and all they have left at their disposal is to pray that Assassin's Creed sales will, like, keep the company afloat. It's interesting times, friends. Anyways, we are done with Assassin's Creed with the rant. And let's go into number 5. My Hero Academia. My goodness, I love this anime so much. And I shouldn't, because there are so many better animes out there. But this is the anime that got me back into anime. And I'm so grateful for it as a result. This anime came into my space at a time when I was working a job that I absolutely just was finished. It drained my soul after every single working day, and I just wanted to go home and sit in front of a couch and just watch something. I didn't want to watch any shows, any live action shows, any cartoons from America, and I was just like, hey, why don't I check out anime again? And so I went on to Crunchyroll. I looked at all the different menus of all the different shows that I could possibly watch. I was so, I didn't know anything that was happening in the anime scene for so long. And then the show caught my attention. Obviously, I was still in the hyped about the MCU phase of my life. So I was like, cool, this is a superhero show based on like the superhero motif, but it's an anime. Bring it on, let's go. And from episode 1, I was captured immediately. Fortunately, now that I'm a little bit more knowledgeable of the anime industry, I can confidently say, like, Studio Bones manages to hit things out the park all the time. So I was lucky to watch a production made by Studio Bones with Izuku, the main character. He's just like a little crybaby, but he manages to tug at the emotional heartstrings all the time. And so that just got to me. Maybe it was just because I was at a weakened emotional state from coming back from a hard day of work every single day. But just seeing this guy go through these struggles, it hit the emotion so hard, friends. It just did. You know, like, here's a boy born into a world where being a superhero is a thing. You know, humanity have evolved to the next stage of their life where they are just naturally gifted a superpower. It's just part of, like, puberty in a way for, like, humanity. It's just a common thing. But unfortunately, you get those very rare exceptional kids that just don't have a superpower. And that is Izuku. But he wants to have a superpower so badly, and he's like picked on and bullied by all his friends, and you know, he's so jealous, and he's trying to, like, figure out, how can I live in this world of superheroes where I'm not a superhero? And then all of a sudden he discovers his idol, the number one famous superhero in all of the superheroes around the world. He discovers him, and they go on an adventure together. And this number one guy by the name of All Might, he looks at Izuku and he pities him and he says, "You are worthy of inheriting my power." It gives me chills. It's such a cliche, stupid storyline, but it's so cool, man. It's like that wish fulfillment, and like he finally gets what he wants, and he meets his idol, and like now he has to work so hard to like make sure that his body is powerful enough for this massive superpower that he's inherited, and it's just so damn cool. And you can't have a cool superhero show without a cast of awesome side characters, and there are so many, because this is a show about a whole bunch of new superhero kids going to school and learning how to use their superpowers, but at the same time there's stuff going on in the villain world that I'll talk about just now. But here's a show that just bombards you with side characters. At first it's probably overwhelming because you have to deal with not just the main character, but like 10 other side characters, 10 to 15 other side characters in the class. And you think like, these characters are going to be forgettable. I don't really care about any of them. But as I continue to watch over the seasons, you start caring, because you start getting used to them and you start knowing what their quirks or their superpowers are. And again, if we were talking about a superhero show, let's talk about the mentors. All of them are epic. All the school teachers have all these different superpowers and backstories, and you fall in love with them just as much. And then we have the villains, which are equally just as epic. You know, like each one has its side character, and you get to see as the seasons progress how the League of Villains starts with like a small ragtag group, and as they become more and more successful and influential in society, they start becoming bigger and attracting more awesome villains into the show. So is it the best story? No. Is it fun? Yes. Have all the seasons been hits? No. I've struggled through seasons 4 and 5. I really have. And again, you know, it's pity to kind of like fall out. It's sad to like fall out of love with the show, but it does happen. And I enjoyed the ride of seasons 1 through to 3. Season 4 and 5 were tough. Season 6, is that the one that we're on now, or is it season 7? The one that we're on now I'm enjoying, and it's also the one where they've noted in the manga and in the anime that the show as a whole is coming to a close very soon. So let's see what happens. Subsequently over the years, while waiting for seasons to air, I've been reading the manga, and I'm enjoying that just as much, you know. So we'll see what happens, friends. But My Hero Academia, I'm always going to be grateful for. I'm always going to enjoy. I've been watching the movies, and it was the show that brought me back into watching anime for good. And so that's why I'm grateful for it. This one is going on long, but I hope that you're enjoying it. We're now in number 6, and we're going to keep with the anime aesthetic. Dragon Ball Z. I'm not going to do a power-up impression because my voice is already, I think we've been talking now for like half an hour. So I'm not going to mess up my voice. Wow, Dragon Ball Z. I have so many good memories with the show. That said, this is the dubbed version we're talking about, friends. There are certain shows that I can only watch dubbed, and those are the memory ones. And we'll talk more about that when I mention another entry on this big ass list of a podcast of top 10 fun things. It's Dragon Ball Z. Here's a show where picture this, right? The hype is real, because all of a sudden in the school playground, the kids, you hear whispers, you hear mutterings. Have you heard about the show? Have you heard? Dragon Ball Z, it's coming. Have you heard about it? Yeah, my brother told me, like we looked on the internet, apparently it's big in America, like have you heard? And that's what it was like. I was like, dude, there's a show, it's coming out, it's called Dragon Ball Z. What's it about? I don't know. It's got action and it looks like all cartoony. Like we didn't know that we know it's from Japan. We didn't know that it's a thing called anime. We just know it's like cool Japanese animation. So yeah, like somehow, I don't know, but like the Whisperings were, that's where it started, from the Whisperings. And so now my radar was up, and I'd come home from school and I'd switch on the TV. I'm like, I don't know where it's going to be airing or what it's going to be, which channel it's going to be airing on, but I'm just going to look at all my favorite kids' television show channels, and I'll see if I can find it. And then one day I saw it, Dragon Ball Z, airing in 10 minutes. And I was one of the lucky ones, friends, because I saw the very first episode of Dragon Ball Z. Whereas everybody was muttering and whispering, they didn't catch it. And I did. And that just started... that just started the ball rolling. Because now, everything about life was Dragon Ball Z. It was, I have to get home to make sure that I see what happens next. And that's what I love about Japanese television shows. The to be continued at the end of the show. And if you missed the show, friends, remember, this is back in the time when you couldn't record anything. You couldn't save or digital, like you couldn't go back and like there wasn't any internet, you know, like you could just only pray that the VCR machine would work to record. Yeah, friends, my life was just Dragon Ball Z. All the hooks, all the amazing characters, all the like power-ups and strengths and like the stuff and it was just fun, dude. It was just like dudes beating up on each other and superpowers and Kaioken and Kamehamehas, like building up the energies and screaming into the microphone and all the characters dying and like their rebirth and the training arcs and man, Dragon Ball Z was just so cool. And I didn't know that there was a previous show before that called Dragon Ball, and you know, I didn't know that there are a million different like mini movies, and it just birthed the franchise of just awesomeness. And then there was the PS2 game, the Budokai game that came out that my friends had, and we all just played the Budokai game. Dragon Ball Z, guys, it was just so much fun. It was just a small window of time where Dragon Ball Z was all that mattered. I had to be in front of the TV at a certain time to make sure that I could see what would happen to my favorite characters. And more so, it was then seeing your characters grow up and live new lives, and just seeing like the new hairstyles and like seeing like who is now having kids and who married who, and it was just so cool. It was like, you know, like you moving through time with these amazing characters. Now I've read the manga for Dragon Ball Z. I've read the whole thing, but I do not consider myself complete in life. With a digital bucket list, I do not see it as complete until I've watched the entirety of the Dragon Ball saga, but specifically seen Dragon Ball Z through to the end. Because unfortunately, friends, I was so thorough for years watching the show. But unfortunately, circumstances happened, and I started to miss the show from the Cell Saga when they were building up to the final Cell games. That's when I missed it. And it's still to this day, it's the thing that needs completion, friends. It needs to be done. And one day it will be done, and I will document this journey. So consider this podcast an intro to documenting the journey of finally finishing Dragon Ball Z, and then completely tarnishing my love with the franchise when we go into Dragon Ball GT and everything that comes in after that. So that is Dragon Ball Z. This is an intro of my fandom for now. Watch this space. Next up, we'll stick with the final anime show for this top 10 list, and that, my friends, is Digimon Digital Monsters. Digimon, we are the champions. Do you remember Digimon, friends? Because I sure do. I mean, obviously, because I'm mentioning it as a top 10, so like you better know that I love it. But Digimon. Everyone loved Pokemon. The Pokemon craze was real. And I was also a big fan of Pokemon. Don't get me wrong. I loved Pokemon just as much as I loved Digimon. But Digimon has my heart just that little bit more for some reason, because it is the underdog. It was the interesting, different story. Whereas Pokemon was the games. It was already established that it was the games. It was the show, the Pokemon cards. A couple of years later, the Tazos and the chips. Pokemon the show was a one-off episode kind of thing. Yes, there was the occasional continuity thread with Ash and his Pikachu and finally making it to a gym so that he can finally get a stupid badge. But for the most part, in between those gym battle like story arcs were like just filler episodes where they introduced one Pokemon of like the 150 or so that they brought out in the first season. And yes, there was the occasional to be continued plot thread, but for the most part it was just a one and done kind of episode. Digimon stuck to the similar Japanese television show of the time, which is to be continued. There's a plot thread at the end of the show, and the whole show was split into three massive arcs, 3 different story threads, and like it started off very, just like how do I put this? It started off very unobtrusive. Just a whole bunch of kids from a summer camp get whisked away into a magical world where each kid gets a magical device and a magical pet, and they have to somehow figure out who they like, how they get there, how they got there, what this place is, why they are there, and how to get back home. And that's kind of like already as a young kid then you'd probably like encountered that story so many times before. But as you continued to watch the show, and like, yes, there were the battles, yes, there were the Digi-evolutions where their monsters got more stronger and better weapons, just like in Pokemon. What made the show really stand out was when the characters got separated, and now they had to fend for themselves individually, and it was all them, like the process of them with their individual story arcs and trying to reconnect with each other, and they finally battle the big demon, and then they discover that big demon was actually the weakest of all the big demons, and and then the story just went into a whole bunch of different places. Like they went back home, but they weren't really home, and they introduced new characters. They introduced Kari, Ty's little sister, and they finally managed to get back. And then there was the 4 biggest, most powerful demons that were destroying the digital world, and like some of the creatures that they battled previously as villains now become like allies, and some of the allies die, and like the series ends with like a massive like epic battle with like all the 4 monsters combined into like the biggest evil thing. And it was so special, and that was only a journey that you could go on if you were consistently watching the show. And then let's move on to season 2, my friends, because season 2 of Digimon was a continuation. Again, now all the original characters who you love are older and still impactful to the show, and at the same time they've introduced a whole bunch of newer, younger characters who are just as relevant to the show with their own unique Digimon, their own unique Digimon transformations and like different things, because now they can power up through like eggs, but they power up through their devices into a completely different monster as well. And seeing the story conflict between the baddie at the time, Ken, and the goodie at the time, Davis, and seeing their conflict and then eventual like brotherhood and allyship, and seeing who the real baddies were, that was just epic. Whereas contrast that to Pokemon, where Ash and Pikachu were just consistently plodding along from either bush to forest to gym battle to getting a badge, and then like completely burning out at the major leagues once they have all the badges, and then having to watch an entirely new voyage or journey so that they can compete in now a completely different tournament. Digimon had new developing plot lines. Pokemon didn't. And then we jump into season 3, which was completely different characters, no relation to season 2 whatsoever, but it was still fun. It was engrossing. It was dark as well. they played around with some very dark themes for a kid show. Digimon Season 3 and Season 4 I wasn't really fully invested in, and I think that's just because, like, school life was busy at the time. I couldn't watch every single show. I think that was exactly the same. Those shows were probably airing the exact same time I tuned out to Dragon Ball Z as well. I just couldn't keep up. Life got tough for a school kid. But I still remember thoroughly enjoying Season 3 and Season 4. Season 3 was a tough watch. I didn't really fully appreciate it until I watched the whole show later. Season 4 was fun, where now instead of kids having side little digital pets, they now turned into the Digimon, and that was just cool because it was like it played with the dynamics of the actual Digimon card game as well. Digimon continued after that, but we never got the follow-up additional seasons. But yeah, like when I later on in my life then decided to do like a Digimon kind of like revisit, and I finally got around to watching the show, like watching all these shows that I mentioned and seeing what I've missed. I think it was actually cool that I didn't continue watching the shows, because the quality of the subsequent seasons apparently faded. But my friends, there was a rebirth, and that rebirth came in the form of following up on, I think it was the 20th anniversary. So following up on the original characters, as if now they are high school, or I think, final year high school students, or going into university for the first time. I think that's the case. But it was the Digimon Adventure Tri series, which had a very complicated production. I don't know if the creators of that show fully got what they envisioned, but at least they managed to put some closure into the storyline. I think it was awesome and very brave of them to reinvest into these characters and to the storyline and give them like a new thing for them to, a new like journey or a new challenge. But I don't think it was fully done all that well. Digimon Adventure Tri was weird. It was weird, friends. Like, there weren't really any significantly cool battles. The big baddie was like continuously cast in shadow, and the whole motif was like, this is the end of the characters and the Digimon that you love, and that they're busy like fading away into obscurity because of time. Like, Digimon shouldn't be, their data is like slowly getting corrupted, and I don't want to see that. I want to see my characters, like, if they're gonna go out, I want to see them go out in like a blaze of glory, not in like this like whispery, wimpy, like sad, good, melancholic goodbye. However, that said, friends, and this is again why I still continue coming back to Digimon and why I continue just loving the show. I love how in the final episode, they finally answered the question, where are the other Digidestined, the Season 2 characters that we also love? Well, I mean, some hated, I love them. Where are they? We found out where they were. They were trapped in like some like freeze tube from the baddies, whatever. But at least we know where they are. And it opened up the door for now the producers to make a follow-up movie to them and their story. So now the Digimon arc, the full like 20-year grand scale of this whole thing, it's still continuing to this day, and I cannot wait to see what happens with my beloved Season 2 characters, and I really hope they don't mess it up. And in the interim, we had a redo of Season 1. It was a reboot of the whole season of Season 1, and I really wanted to watch that. I'm actually very excited because I genuinely am excited, friends, because I wanted to watch that reboot, but because I originally watched the show dubbed, Digimon is the kind of show that I only really want to watch dubbed, especially with those characters, even though it's not the same voice actors. So I've been patiently waiting for news for this dub. I knew for the English dub to come out. I knew it was coming, but I just didn't know when. And before doing this podcast today, I quickly checked out on Wikipedia to see if there's an update. And guess what, friends? Guess what? It came out late April of this year. So literally the first thing I'm going to do as soon as I'm done recording this is get me my Digimon Adventure reboot dub. And I'm going to watch me my Digimon again. I'm so excited, guys. I cannot begin to explain. And then to tide me over as well, there's the most recent Digimon show that has finished recent, probably a while back, but it's finished. It's the most recent Digimon show, and that is Digimon Ghost Game. You know, Digimon is the kind of show that I want to binge it and enjoy. And because there's no connection to any of the characters that I love, I'll watch it in anime and in Japanese, and that's totally fine by me. But like I said, there's certain shows that I can only watch dubbed, because those are the things that I grew up watching. Whew, wow. Friends, can you believe it? We're gonna pass the hour-long mark. This is probably the longest thing that we've done so far. And and then we're doing it all for you. And I hope that this is keeping you entertained. And probably nobody's gonna hear it. So if you've made it this far, let me know how you've been enjoying the podcast so far. Alright, friends, let's jump into number 8 of top 10 pop culture things. Now, this one isn't specific. I'm gonna entitle this number 8, Collect All the Things Platform Video Games. And so if you can think of like old school Spyro or Crash Bandicoot or Jak and Daxter or Croc, you know, the traditional just fun platformers where there are a whole bunch of different things scattered all over the world, all over the levels, with like fun little mascotty platformers, like mascotty things that you control. And it was fun and kiddie, and just like each like mascotty thing had like its different character, like quirky thing, and those days were just fun. I don't think they're doing those things anymore, and it's just like, it's sad. It was a small little time capsule of like PS1 era. Yes, there were the Banjo-Kazooies and all the other things that I didn't have access to, and yes, there were the Super Marios that I've only really come to appreciate much later, but just fun platforming without guns and without action. That's what, like, just the core roots. That's what I love. I can talk endlessly about Crash Bandicoot, the original Crash Bandicoot, and endlessly about Spyro. I can't say all that much more for all the other games. Yeah, I can talk endlessly about Croc too. But yeah, friends, there's something special about just those kind of platformers, and only now that I'm beginning, that when I have free time to check out the Banjo-Kazooies and check out the Super Marios and all the games that I missed, it's just fun to go back to like a gaming principle where it was just collect all the things. As the young gamers got older into their teenage years, the developers started making the same kind of games, but they added guns. And it's just and as a result, now we have the action platformer as opposed to just the platformer. And yes, there were some outstanding action platformer games that I can still rave about to this day in just as equal amount of length. But they are not the collect all the things platformers. And that was a sweet, innocent little time period. And I hope that they continue to make those kind of games again. And if they don't, then maybe one day when I have a crazy amount of money, I will make that kind of game again for all the younger gamers of whatever generation in this weird fever dream of an idea. Okay, my friends, let's jump into number 9. Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man. How cool is that name? Just Chainsaw Man. You know, like you could think of any kind of superhero, Superman, Batman, something man, Chainsaw Man. This just it evokes the feeling of blood and gore and guts. And that is exactly what you get from Chainsaw Man. Oh my goodness, it is so good. I am fortunately one of the cool, smug little grinned fans to say that I liked Chainsaw Man before it was cool. Here's a picture of... Oh yeah, you can see the picture of my manga collection. I don't buy manga, but this was the first manga and probably the only manga that I will ever... Okay, no, wait, I lie. When One Piece is finally finished, I will buy all the manga and I will read all the manga instead of having to check this out on the screen. That's something that I do want to do. Just finish One Piece. Come on, Ida, come on. But... Chainsaw Man, friends, I bought the manga. That's just how impactful this developing franchise has become. The anime was, for the people that enjoyed the anime, I'm glad that you enjoyed it, but do yourself a favor and read the manga, because you are not getting the level of visual artistry from the anime, because the manga is actually more detailed than what you see on an animated video format. Chainsaw Man is not it's a kind of, oh man, where'd I go with explaining Chainsaw Man? Chainsaw Man is the kind of story that brings humor, gore, action, ridiculous story, like rug pull changes, characters, love, comedy. It brings all those cool things into one blender and mixes it all up at such a quick pace, friends. Characters similar to Game of Thrones that you grow to love, they might not stick around, and they might exit the story in the most dramatic, unforeseen of ways. And so subsequently, when I first bought the Shonen Jump manga app, and they were only talking about Chainsaw Man, I was like, cool, let's see what the fuss is all about. And it was definitely worth it, and I'm so glad that I got to experience Chainsaw Man before everybody else. And for 2 years, all I did was talk about Chainsaw Man. I was like, yes, I can't wait for this anime. Like, yes, finally we have the trailer. I'm like, guys, you have to see Chainsaw Man. Nobody watched it. Nobody listened to me, and then some people did. And Chainsaw Man is just exceptional. I don't know what they're doing now with the second arc of Chainsaw Man. It's ongoing now. It's coming on its weekly basis. And just like I did with the first arc of Chainsaw Man, I'm gonna wait for a very, very long time, because this is the kind of thing that I want to absorb and just marathon my way through. I don't like my weekly long cliffhangers for 50 new pages of manga. I'm sorry, I'm not that kind of guy. So I'll wait. I'll see what they're doing. I don't know if I'll like it, because they're not focusing all that much on Chainsaw Man or on his human persona, Denji. I don't know, because they're focusing on some chick, Asa. I don't care about Asa. I probably will be made to care about Asa, but for the time being, I don't. And I don't know what the relationship is, or what the dynamic is, or why the series creator is so focused on this. I don't know what it's leading up to or building towards. I just don't know. And I'd rather not have that confusion on a weekly basis. I'd rather just wait until there's a significant amount of chapters out, and then I'll just see. And I'll see how that relationship between Asa and Denji grows. But in the interim, friends, check out a manga called Dan Da Dan. I think that's what it's called. Because the artists, the destruction, the incredible level of detail that went into the fight scenes of Chainsaw Man, those artists decided to make their own show called Dan Da Dan. And I've read quite a large chunk of it, and it is just as good, just as humorous, just as like yeah, it's everything that you loved about Chainsaw Man. Check out Dan Da Dan. I'm pretty sure they're gonna make it into an anime at some stage, and I'm pretty sure we're now just reopening the loop of, I'll tell you to check out Dan Da Dan, no one will listen to me, the trailer will debut, no one will listen to me, and we'll probably just be here for like another podcast a couple of years from now. In the meantime, I've always wanted to check out Fire Punch Man. I mean, is it Fire Punch Man or just Fire Punch? I'm getting confused between that and One Punch Man. The man with the hand, the man who's always on fire, and Fire Punch. I think that's what it's called, but it's by the same guy who made Chainsaw Man. So in the interim, what's going to hold me over until Chainsaw Man Arc 2 is done is reading Fire Punch Man. I'm sure I've butchered the name, but I'm looking forward to reading it. And with that, my friends, we are now on number 10, and we've also almost reached the hour mark. And number 10, I saved not the best for last, because this one is also a love-hate relationship. And number 10 is, I've combined it. It is both the Star Trek franchise and the Star Wars franchise. It is the space franchise. Yes, I could throw in the Stargate as well, but I do very much intend on finishing that franchise too. But for now, I'm in bed with Star Trek and Star Wars, because they kicked me off into the nerddom, and like from Star Wars, I've already talked about that in the Star Wars in my Star Wars episode. Just look back in my channel, and I've had like a 30-minute long rant on Star Wars and how I got introduced to it. Star Trek, my friends, on the other hand, every single weekend as a kid, I'd go to my grandparents' house, and there would be Star Trek: The Next Generation with Picard, and I absolutely love that show. Here's a 40-minute, also long space kind of thing with cool characters, cool writing. I remember back in the day, like really appreciating the writing and the character and the characterizations and all the acting, even though some of the episodes might have been a little bit jank for today's standards. And if you look back on things with rose-tinted lenses, like it was really probably sometimes like a little bit weird to probably see, you know, like all these characters enter the holocubes and now all of a sudden take on like Sherlock Holmes, or I remember the episode with like the Three Musketeers kind of episode. But you have to keep in mind that for its time, Star Trek: The Next Generation, or the New Generation, it was made for kids like me at this age. That's why they had the Wesley character, so that kids like me can. It was like the foothold into relating to the Star Trek. I didn't have any context of what came before with Captain Kirk and the original Star Trek. I knew from a family member that those shows did exist, but again, you know, it was back in the day without any internet or without any TV reruns, so I could only just see pictures from a magazine or something like that. But it was fun, you know. And I remember very fondly how, or I wouldn't say fondly, it's actually, this is more like a nightmare of mine, how when there was a Star Trek Next Generation movie that came out in cinemas. Now, I didn't know that there had been previous Star Trek Next Generation movies. I just knew that there was this one, and it was the trailer, and it was a movie, and it looked cool. And I think it was the last or the second last Next Generation film. This was the one where Picard was busy shaving and looking in the mirror, and then all of a sudden there was like a thing, and like there was like a Borg spike like sticking out of his cheek. Now, I was a very sensitive kid. I was absolutely traumatized by this experience. I remember like turning to my mom and I was like, "Mom, I don't want to watch this anymore. I'm scared." And I think then we went and like hopped over into like watching Flipper. And to this day, my friends, I've always wanted to get closure on that particular movie and confront my fears and just get closure and say it's done, it's over. I've confronted my fears. That chapter in my life is closed. So subsequently, I've been watching, it's like a every December kind of thing, but I've always wanted to just get full marathon closure on what actually is Star Trek and see what all the fuss is about, which is very difficult considering just how much Star Trek there is. Oh my God. So I managed to struggle my way through the OG Star Trek, and subsequently I met William Shatner as a bonus. Yay, go me. But I managed to struggle my way through it. It was fun. It was cool. I have a lot of respect for the writing and for what the show managed to pull off at the time, and how it was the seed for pop culture. I struggled my way through, and it's not struggle, it's more just like there's so much Star Trek to consume. It's not like I hated the experience. I've actually very much been loving the experience. But yeah, I watched the animated series. I then started Next Generation. I'm like, yes, finally, like now I've seen what's come before. I'm finally up to date. I can finally start Next Generation. But no, friends, no, that's not how it works. Because Star Trek Next Generation is not just the one show. It's what I'd like to call the 90s Star Trek black hole. Let me take a breather. The 90s Star Trek black hole, friends. This is because now it's not just like, think of this, right? If you can relate to maybe the DC CW Arrowverse, right? Where originally it started with the Arrow, and now it was the Flash, and now there's a whole bunch of episodes. And if you want to keep up to date with what's happening with the whole story as a whole, you have to watch everything sequentially. And when Star Trek Next Generation started ending towards the final seasons, and they started to introduce Deep Space Nine and later Voyager and all the different movies associated, it's a big elephant to have to swallow down, and you have to take it at chunks at a time, because sometimes marathoning so much Star Trek, it really messes with your head. Or it messes with mine, at least. It becomes too much and becomes too samey. So I have to break it up with other shows in between. So here's where I'm at now, my friends. I think I'm at almost the second half of season 6 of Next Generation, and I'm almost done with season 1 of Deep Space Nine. And now I have to alternate between Next Generation and Deep Space Nine episodes, so that I can get to season 7, so that I can get my closure on the show, so that I can finally start watching the movies and get closure on those movies, and then I can say, I have closure on this story. But I do not yet have closure on Star Trek, because my goodness, the 90s Star Trek Black Hole, and then we have Star Trek, the 2000 show with the Quantum Leap actor, and then we have the Netflix shows, and we have the animated New Decks. We have the movies, which I've actually seen, so it's fine. And then we have Picard, which apparently is like a headache to have to marathon through just to get the good closure of the final episode that's only recently just aired a couple of months ago. So it's a very long voyage. I know that there's a quote here, but I cannot remember it because I've been talking for over an hour. But it's a long way to go, friends. And let's just jump into the Star Wars Black Hole very briefly, even though I've touched on it in the previous video that I did a while back. Star Wars now, I do want to get some kind of closure to it as well. I want to be up to date, because I want to be able to just talk and, say I love my franchise. But it's so difficult with the woke politics that are just shoved into that show now. It's just sad, man. It's just so difficult to watch. Some people like talking about the woke stuff, others don't. I'm kind of on the middle ground here. I don't really want to launch into that at any point in my YouTubing journey, but at the same time, it's so prevalent in media nowadays. And it's like when you grew up with such incredible and impressive writing, that with creators that are able to write about incredible stories that empower men, that empower women in that format of writing, whereas now it's like it's different, and that's what makes me sad. But at the same time, friends, the Star Wars of today is very much piggybacking on everything that happened in between episode 3, The Clone Wars, and everything that happened there. So all of this Mandalorian crap, it's probably not crap, I just haven't watched it yet. So all the Mandalorian stuff, the Book of Boba Fett, all of the Bad Batch, the animated things, the Star Wars Rebels, the Star Wars Clone Wars, all these shows are apparently very good, but also so much to take in. And in the direction that Star Wars is going, it's continuing to create spin-off characters of the spin-off characters. And it's like, I need to consume all of this prior content to have prior knowledge of who these people are. And I just do not have the time for that, in between all the things that I need to make time for, and all other shows and games and pop culture awesome things that I need to consume. We are done, my friends. We are done. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Smash the like if you managed to finish this thing, and props to you if you did. I really appreciate you spending over an hour of time with me. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope I was a little bit more animated than the last one, and I now need to render this thing and feed the dog. Till next time, my friends, I look forward to chatting with ya. Peace out.